warm welcome to this very special conversation brought to you by ORF's digital initiatives right now. We are in the midst of a pandemic. We are in varying degrees of lockdowns, either by the state or self-imposed, as the case may be. We are bringing you a conversation today on the future of entertainment. Now, some of you may argue that the pandemic really has nothing to do with this conversation, and the way we consume entertainment and the arts has been changing ever since digital technology has become a part of our lives. We have whole generations now of youngsters who are digital natives, unlike some of us who have had to become digital natives very quickly. But the fact is that this conversation predates the pandemic. Nonetheless, the pandemic has changed the way the entertainment industry is reaching out to its audiences. It's going to change the way films are shot. It's going to change the way we watch. It's going to change the way audiences want to spend on entertainment. So we're going to see many of those trends also kind of go forward. And joining us to have this conversation, we have Shekhar Kapur, a filmmaker who needs no introduction, and Vani Tripathi, who's an artist, a theatre performer, and a member of the Central Board of Film Certification as well. Thank you both for joining us. Mr. Kapur, if I could actually start this conversation with you, what I'd like to know is what you think defines entertainment in the digital age.
Well, for many years now, we've automatically thought that theatrical film defined entertainment, because that's what all news is all about, stars and glamour. Theatrical film is probably only 3 to 4% of the entertainment that even Indian audiences have been consuming over the last 5 years or 6 years. Every new technology that has brought a platform in, new people have come in. And a lot of people, like, for example, TikTok. It's just been banned, but there are several other Indian apps that are going to try and replace TikTok. But I was saying that some of the biggest TikTok content creators, social media following larger than all the Indian stars and all the cricket stars all put together. Add them up, they have one person has a larger social media following. So what is entertainment? Is Facebook is entertainment, Instagram is entertainment, TikTok is entertainment, and these so how do you judge it? Revenue generating, they're larger than film. Audience participation, they're larger than film. We keep talking about OTT because our stars are going to OTT. But I mean, there's a whole generation of technology constantly creating new avenues of entertainment that we don't bring into the ambit of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there where new technology is going to come in and define entertainment, because we don't even talk to that generation. That generation it's not that they don't watch films, but they spend, I'm looking at teenagers now, 90% of the time, they're not watching TV, they're not watching films, they're playing games.
Mm-hmm.
The online gaming system is huge,
right?
Even in India. So where does film stand? Mm-hmm. Because we keep talking about film and theatrical. It's just a little tiny bit of what we call entertainment.
If I can just follow up on that before going to Vani, I know you make the point about theatrical entertainment, but I think maybe is there a deeper understanding, or should there be, given you were talking about TikTok and the kind of volume of traffic that some TikTok stars have, but I think the question is there a line or an intersection between entertainment and the art? Is there an intellectual meeting of platform and content, and how do you see that? Because the arts have also been a way to communicate, to tell stories, to tell compelling stories, to communicate about what's going on in the world around them, whether it's music, whether it's cinema, whether it's the performing arts of any different kind. Do you think that is going to be impacted or has been impacted by technology?
You'll find at least 1,000 times more or 10,000 times art on YouTube than you do on film. You talk classical performers, you talk about theater, you talk about people performing theater, just go to YouTube. Millions and millions of YouTube individuals have the ability to express themselves. We're just talking about people that get famous in a narrow intellectual environment that we nurture, maybe through press or something. But no, it's exploded out exactly. Art has exploded into YouTube now.
Hmm.
So that's another technology.
Right. Vani, we've had this conversation over the phone as well a couple of days ago, and we talked about the fact that, I mean, there is a whole spectrum of content that's emerging on platforms that are providing entertainment. Whether they're cinema, mini series, documentaries, whatever genre of video entertainment that we can talk about. Do you feel that because the market and the means of providing entertainment today are so diverse that they are also leading to a diversity of content? I mean, we've moved away from the classic Bollywood style story or Hollywood style story, for that matter, in the West, to much more gritty, much more almost real feeling storytelling, which sometimes crosses the line between fiction and reality as well.
You see, Maya, despite the fact that this almost the times that we are in, with this whole COVID thing, it almost seems like it's a big dystopian film. Well, in a film, you actually know the beginning, middle, and the end. We are right in the middle of it. We really don't know when it's going to end. But frankly speaking, what Shekhar is trying to say, and has been said for more than a decade, needs to be underlined. There's a tectonic shift in the way we consume content and the way stories are told. I mean, we are a land of Kathavachaks. When you look at the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, not just in the classical sense. Remember when Peter Brook did Mahabharata with the all international cast, and you had a black actor doing Arjun. I mean, that was news then. So today, I mean, in the last decade or so, there's an absolute new change in the way stories are told, the way films are made, the way stories come out of theaters, in literature. What we tend to do, and Shekhar is right. It's not just he's very mildly saying this. It's the PR and the marketing agencies which create this bubble. We are one of the largest film producing nations of the world, but we are not just the largest cinema producing. There, as you said, there are documentaries, there are short films, there's great content. The big tectonic shift that I think has happened is that content is in my palm today. I'm talking to you actually on an Android device right now on this thing called Zoom, which everybody just discovered just around the time when we were facing lockdown. What does it mean? This is an era of new communicative technology and skills, which are, kicking in. And with a film industry which is so flabby, doesn't know what lean filmmaking is. And again, I know the question of employment of so many hundreds and thousands of people, but why do we not do capacity building of people who would give more talent, will give more prowess to talent and talent generation, around storytelling? But we want to be stuck in that bubble and we go on want to be talking about those so-called A-list stars and their babies and their clothes and their shoes. Whereas, as you just now said, in the West, storytelling took a huge quantum leap and there was a paradigm shift. There is a shift here with the advent of the OTT, however small and nuanced it may be. Women are suddenly the centerpiece. And imagine we're talking to Shekhar here. In all his stories, whether it was Bandit Queen, whether all the other films he made, the protagonist was a woman, and his films were always celebrated, both at the box office and also, critically, they got tremendous acclaim. But here we were so obsessed with the hero and his gun-toting 35 goon number and the babe in the woods and, trying to save her, that we had forgotten that real stories are also about real life. So I think the biggest change is, and again, the mediums are diverse. Yes, you are right, diversity of content. When an Oscar nomination film is from Marathi and not Hindi suddenly, I think that also is a linguistic tectonic shift. Hindi film industry, I hate this word Bollywood, it's a terrible poor cousin of Hollywood. The Hindi film industry has been so top heavy that it has marred and killed the fantastic linguistic diversity of films and content which is coming out of other Indian languages. So the marriage that you were talking about, I think the biggest and the most beautiful marriage is regional literature and literature from other Indian languages is finding inroads into storytelling, into cinema, into theatre, into also OTT platforms. And I think this Kathavachan, this storytelling is the new normal, and this is the way forward for a country like ours.
So, Mr. Kapoor, if I can just sort of have you follow up on what Vani said, this idea that you need to move out of the power centers. I mean, I think we find that conversation across different industries and across different cultures as well, that the story is really outside the centers of power, whether it is economic power or the power of entertainment and the A-listers that Vani was mentioning, whether here or abroad or in the West. I think, it's one thing to say, why isn't there more capacity building? And of course, there's unemployment. One of the stories that we've seen actually emerging from the film industry is right now in the midst of this pandemic, the inability to continue work. Economically, it's been hit as badly as any other industry. There's unemployment. There's a shutting of shop. In some cases, hopefully temporarily, in some cases more permanently as well. How do you kind of navigate that space? It's one thing to say capacity building, but by that logic, we must be capacity building for across industries in different ways. How do you deal with an economic calamity like this? How does the entertainment industry or the arts industry, performing arts or cinema, how does it emerge from something like this?
Let me just say a sentence about your last question about being greedy. I made Bandit Queen. It was
Mm-hmm.
greedy. If you go beyond Hindi cinema and commercial Hindi cinema and look at regional cinema, as Vani said, you'll find some amazingly gritty films there, stunning films also.
Yeah.
The second question that we are overwhelmed. The tilt of every conversation becomes Bollywood. So let's avoid
Mhm.
that for a moment because it becomes theatrical Bollywood 200 crore films. It's a useless conversation because that game is over. Um, in as far as entertainment, I think entertainment has adapted. If you take the larger context of entertainment, if you include education and entertainment, if you include everything else, it has seemed to be adapting to online pretty well. It is, of course, theatrical is going to take a hit like every other industry is taking a hit. And
Yeah.
there's going to be unemployment in theatrical, as there is going to be unemployment in almost every other industry we can think about. But it's the entertainment industry on digital seems to be adapting and adapting and adapting. And my guess right now is the way technology moves. And because I deal with MIT also, I am seeing new technologies coming up that will make online or home, let's not call it, let's say home viewing, a much more experiential game. So
Hmm.
you might even not want to go back to the theater
Yeah.
because what they've made is something that is much more immersive, not just because of storytelling, but because of the technology. So you and I could be sitting in 3D right now,
Mm.
immersion. You and I could be talking as if we're in the same room, and that technology is like a month away. It's already there in its nascent form. So there is immense technological progress being made because of the pandemic, which has given every online platform the chance to suddenly prove. Everybody's just talking about Zoom. I'm saying, what if you could turn on your OTT platform or this and walk into a world? What if I could make Mahabharat on television and say, come, come to me into the battle of Kurukshetra, and you're there, and you can become a character. What if OTT offered you that? Now, once you're offering that as an individual experience online, it's going to be more and more difficult to get people back to the theater where you are watching a very two-dimensional idea of storytelling and a two-dimensional idea of visuality.
Hmm.
So I think what's going to happen because of the pandemic is that technological change and innovation in online viewing is going to be huge, and you're going to come back to it and you won't even realize we've shifted.
Well, I mean, to some extent, we've already seen the advent of augmented reality and virtual reality, as you mentioned, in the gaming space, certainly, and possibly moving into the entertainment space as well, the theatrical space. But I think, you know, one of the challenges of this, as we all embrace technology, is again a universal challenge, and it sort of cuts across all industry. What happens when a machine of any kind or technology of any kind replaces the human? We're looking at issues of you know employment. We're looking at issues of livelihoods, and we're looking at issues of technology and technological advancement. I mean, do you feel that sometimes they kind of conflict with each other?
I think that, people have forever been saying this doomsday scenario of artificial intelligence. Humans
Mm-hmm.
will not be. Tell me what is not artificial intelligence. When the farmer dropped the hull and the tractor came in, that was
Yes.
artificial intelligence, actually,
Sure.
because it was a machine. Machine learning is artificial intelligence. Did we ever come back and say, hang on, because it's not a hull, farmers are out of work? We never did. It's never happened. And it's a scientific idea that is very glamorous. AI is going to replace human beings. It's actually never happened. When computers came in, how many people went out of work? Before, remember card making machine, and then Fed, all kinds of technologies that came in. And now we have computers in every office. Computer is AI. It's machine learning. It is an intelligent machine learning. When artificial intelligence develops the idea of fear, of hope, of dreaming, then I'll get worried, because that's what drives human endeavor. So I don't think we're coming to a point where a machine will sit there and say, shit, I'm so afraid,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm dreaming of this kind of thing. So far, all artificial
Sure.
intelligence is based on our inputs, not.
Right. Sure. I mean, that's a whole conversation in AI that's already taking place about the human element of AI. But Vani, just to get your perspective on this, yes, sure, technology replaces or increases efficiency, but doesn't necessarily take away jobs. Nonetheless, for it to kind of get to that stage, there is a whole transition process in which livelihoods could potentially be impacted. Now, I don't know how far this is true, but what we are hearing from producers, especially smaller producers who are doing stuff for all these platforms as well, shooting schedules have come to a standstill. Now, I don't know if they'll ever go back to that kind of shooting schedule, because they don't necessarily yet have the capacity to kind of create a set in AR or VR. Maybe they'll get to that in the course of the next year. The pandemic might kind of rush things along as far as that's concerned, but there is a transition process. So, how does the industry navigate that transition?
You see, Maya, this whole, as Shekhar very correctly said, that, this glamour of AI taking over our lives. Remember, for 100 odd years or more, we only had the spool. We only knew film and cans and those cameras. And suddenly, one day, everything changed and it became a chip. Now, that didn't take away the job of the people who were handling the camera or handling the equipment. With technological change, with advancement, it rather, I think I actually see the opposite. Furthermore, employment is generated. I'll give you an example. The days when Zanjeer and Diwar was written and so on and so forth, two people, one person was doing screenplay, dialogue, everything. Today, you have writers' rooms. Most of the content which is created is with a collaborative kind of an effort of various writers coming together. So what was done by one or two people for a whole film, today in the web series or the film segment, you have several people, working on the same thing, which that means there's multiplicity of employment. Yes, for now, this question is a very big question mark. When actually could we go to the set? But I remember I was speaking to Shekhar just a few days ago, and he said in Eastern Europe and some countries like those, they already have production and shooting facilities available. There's barely any, COVID there, and people are already there on the set. So what we have to also do is we have to look within. We will have to see what is imperative, what is required. We've also become very flabby, lazy. We don't want to look at, what kind of technological advancement has happened around us. Okay, there's one good guy who does grapes, who does good camera. You get him, even if he comes from somewhere outside the country, and you forget about it. I think these are also times when, even if it's called push psychology, you're being pushed to learn more. So the other day I was speaking to this advertising big guru Maverick, and they said, suddenly we have models
Right.
actually done nothing, just shot their children on their phone, are actually using the phone. There's an online director right there on the laptop instructing them, and the whole ad film got shot there. And hundreds of them have happened in the past 3 months. So
Right.
this also means there is, even if it's skilling which is happening just out of the adversity we are faced with. There are so many people who are doing new things. Recently, A.R. Rahman did a whole music video where every singer
Sure.
actually shot their own selves. So
Yeah.
I think early days yet to take a position on whether tomorrow's shoot can start or not. But I think this is also the time to think and rethink the way
Sure.
we've been doing our filmmaking
There's
and
an
the way we do our
opportunity in
production.
every crisis. I mean, there is an opportunity
Absolutely.
in every crisis, and I think we're all aware of that. Mr. Kapoor, one final question to you before we wrap this conversation. As consumers, a lot of us have gotten quite used to consuming a lot of content readily available at our fingertips online for free. What does that do to the industry?
You know, when you were a kid and we used to borrow books at the library practically free.
Yeah.
I remember we used to go borrow comics practically free. That didn't stop people buying books. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's a
Yeah.
different market. It's a different idea when you're consuming content free, and every technology is now saying, okay, here's something free for you, but you want the premium stuff. Now you have to transport yourself. They're clever enough to do that. But it's never actually happened that you just want everything free and then you want what you really want, you won't pay for. I remember buying books as a kid, but borrowing free from the library.
Right.
So that was also content. That was also content consumption, you know.
So if you want to listen to podcast, why you pay for Spotify Premium? Otherwise, you get
Yeah, or
ad-based
if it's
entertainment.
somebody I
Yeah, got it.
really want to listen to, I'll pay for it.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe there is a silver lining in all this. And as we mentioned, opportunity in every crisis. The pandemic certainly is a crisis. I mean, force majeure for the entire world, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how across the spectrum people emerge from this. Do we get back to life? Not as normal perhaps, but certainly some other kind of normal, and one also hopes that there's going to be a sort of you know a wellspring of stories from the pandemic itself that one will be sort of consuming in different forms of entertainment going forward when once we get through this crazy cycle of life for sure. But Shekhar Kapur and Vani Tripathi, thanks so much for joining us on this conversation on the future of entertainment at ORF. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya.